Good afternoon, everyone. This is Eric Brichto. I'm the Vice President and Counsel for Accreditation with CAHME. Thank you for joining us today for this webinar, Pursuing a CAHME Accreditation for an Online Program, Lessons Learned from the Field. This webinar is being jointly hosted by CAHME and the AUPHA Online Program Directors Forum. That forum is led by Carla Stebbins, and the incoming chair of that forum is Eric Richardson. Before we get started, we are recording this session, and we're going to make the recording available to everyone on the CAHME website later this afternoon. For the questions, we've built in Q&A after our panelists. So if you have questions during the session, there's a chat box in the bottom right-hand side of your screen. Please message those questions to Eric Richardson, and we'll go through those during the Q&A. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Carla Stebbins. Carla?
Thanks, Eric. Eric B. We have two Erics. So I just wanted to welcome everyone to the webinar. The idea for this webinar was discussed at last year's faculty forum at the AUPHA meeting. And then it was later brought up during one of the forum's earlier discussions. So just so you know how this was set up, Eric Richardson and I both contacted CAHME and asked for some suggestions on online programs that had achieved accreditation. We emailed the group that Eric Brichto suggested, and all three of them generously agreed to share their experiences with us. I did provide them a list of questions just to kind of give a format to the presentation. But we wanted to allow ample time for a Q&A so that you could get your questions out to this group also. So a few other things. As Eric mentioned, this is being recorded, and I will post it in the forum when it's available. I also want to point out that all three of these panelists are members of AUPHA, and I believe they're members of this forum also. So if you do have additional questions, you can take that up on the forum or offline, you can email them directly. And then before we close, I do want to just talk about the upcoming forum meeting at the AUPHA meeting in New Orleans in June. So we'll reserve hopefully just a couple minutes at the end of the presentation just to cover that, because I think we have kind of an exciting plan for that. Anyhow, so I'm going to ask each of the speakers to introduce themselves and their programs. They do have PowerPoint slides that you'll be able to see. Again, we'll have questions following the three presentations. So keep all your questions in the chat, and Eric will be recording those and presenting them to the panelists at that time. So Annie, can you get us started with an introduction to yourself and to the programs at Seton Hall?
Sure, Carla. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to share about Seton Hall University's MHA experiences on the pathway to our online accreditation. The next slide outlines the topics I'd like to share with you, beginning with a description of our online learning model, talking about some of our specific preparation steps and some of the criteria and challenges we encountered. And finally, a brief review of the benefits and challenges and the lessons that we learned as we accomplished our accreditation. The next slide is an overview of the MHA program at Seton Hall University. And we use this slide to outline the most important attributes of our program. First of all, we offer both an online learning format and an on-campus learning format, and we have done that since 1997. All of our 42 credits are required. They're spread out across 18 courses. We currently average between 140 and 150 students every year, and they are almost equally divided between the online and the on-campus learning formats. And then finally, we are currently the only CAHME accredited program in New Jersey. The next slide is a snapshot of the on-campus learning format. And to give you an idea of our physical location, I've included a picture. We are now in the school, the Interprofessional Health Sciences campus, along with the School of Medicine and a College of Nursing. And we did attain our original accreditation in 2014 and have been reaccredited until 2023. The next slide reviews some more of the detail regarding our online hybrid program. And as you know, every online program is very different. Ours is an online hybrid. It is a cohort model that runs for 2 years. We offer a course every 7 weeks with a week off in between. And we do require 3 immersive residencies. During those immersive residencies, we do complete 1 credit courses. To prepare for our online accreditation, we asked ourselves several critical questions, which I'm sure all of you have discussed already. They basically tend to look at support from not only your administration, but if you have the appropriate resource, commitment, the involvement of your faculty, alumni, and preceptors and other industry partners. And also, does your faculty have the motivation to examine every course and look at the student outcomes? So these are the questions we asked ourselves before we began on our process. The next slide is just a quick overview of the 4 main areas that presented challenges for us. First, we needed to always introduce our hybrid model and how we had set it up over the years with the 3 required residencies. But the other challenges focused on our mission statement, our curriculum alignment, competency development, and finally, assessment. And for most programs, I would guess that these are all areas that need review before you start on the process towards accreditation. In the following slide, I present what is our current mission statement. And I want to highlight that we do clearly outline our target, our priority audience. We talk about the outcome that we want from our program. In addition, we added a second paragraph to our mission statement because we wanted to emphasize the mission alignment with the university, with the school, and with our department. So we did add that second paragraph. The next slide looks at our curriculum, and I know you'll be able to see these slides later, so I'm not going to review in detail all of our particular courses, but I will say we went from a 39 credit to a 42 credit program to meet CAHME standards, and we spent a significant amount of time of looking at the sequence of courses between first year and second year. At the same time, we were looking at our curriculum, and the next slide shows we were developing our competency statements, excuse me. And as you can see, we have 6 learning domains. Now, our model was adapted from the St. Louis University model. So we have tweaked it. We have actually revised it 2 times since 2014, our initial accreditation. We have the 6 learning domains, and we also have 23 competencies. So after we looked at the competencies aligned with the curriculum, our next step then was to focus on assessments. And this was probably the largest challenge for us. We're a relatively small program. We have 5 full-time faculty, and we have a program coordinator. So we were going to go from the standard usage of GPAs and course evaluations, retention rates and placement rates to a much more sophisticated assessment process. And now we use the Blackboard suite of reports that's available, and it allows us to obtain the competency level for every individual student on every competency across courses and at the program level. And in the next slide, you'll see this is the dashboard that we now have from our assessment process, which is our 6 learning domains and the overall level of achievement that we have from our current program. The next slide, and I want to just briefly review this, is what we consider to be the benefits and the challenges of accreditation. And clearly the benefits outweigh the challenges, although sometimes the challenges can be challenging when you're going through the process. But we cannot overstate the idea of the quality improvement becoming totally integrated in everything that the program does. It's a continuing, ongoing process for us. It's also allowed us to expand our market position, our competitive market position, and to receive peer school recognition and some award opportunities as well. The final slide that I want to discuss with you is looking at lessons learned, and I'm sure that most of you would have identified these even if you haven't gone through it, is that you clearly need administrative support for all of your program elements, but assessment in particular. The next is, do you have the alignment between the mission, curriculum, competencies, and so forth? Key lesson number 4 is not a paid commercial for CAHME. This is unsponsored on my part, but I would strongly recommend that you attend a CAHME boot camp, and you may want to also consider an outside consultant. And finally, just a reminder that as the program director, you will carry and shepherd the accreditation process for your online program. And I hope that's been helpful for everyone.
Thank you, Annie. So Dawn, would you like to introduce the University of Central Florida and yourself? You might need to unmute your mic.
Okay, I can't believe they allow me to run an online program when I'm so technologically challenged. I'm sorry about that. Can you hear me?
Yes, can hear you. Can hear you.
Okay, excellent. Before I get started with my program, I am Dawn Ochin. I have had the pleasure of serving as a CAHME commissioner, and I had the honor of being on the site visit team that went to Annie's program and did the review there. And I can attest to the high quality and outstanding program that she is running. So good job, Annie. I am with the University of Central Florida. I've been here 20 years. I have been a leader in many different capacities, and my latest leadership hat involves this, our Executive Masters in Health Administration program. This program has been very interesting so far in that I accepted the position in fall, was just getting my feet wet, and then now I'm on sabbatical this semester. So this is a very new program for me, but it's one that I'm excited to share with you. If we could go to the next slide. We have 3 health services administration programs that are accredited or certified in our department. We have our Bachelor's of Health Services Administration, which is AUPHA certified, and then we have 2 tracks of our master's program, which include a track in our traditional Masters of Health Administration, and then our Executive Masters of Health Administration. We're both, all of these programs are housed in the Department of Health Management and Informatics, and we are a part of a brand new college called the College of Community Innovation and Education. Our college started this past fall, and we're going through some exciting changes. We've been partnered up with education and some other new programs for us. To give a brief comparison, like I mentioned before, we have two tracks. We have our EMHA and our MHA, and there are two tracks of one program. We do have two program directors, myself with the executive program and Courtney Nieves with our traditional program. The executive program is completely online, and it's 44 credit hours. This includes 10 4-credit hour classes. This differs significantly from our traditional program in that it's 51 credit hours, or 17 3-credit hour classes, and all of those classes take place either in the daytime or at night. There's a lot of flexibility in the MHA program. It's not cohort-based. It's full. You can take it full-time or part-time. The courses are limited to 30 students or less. The executive program, on the other hand, you must go full-time. You take 2 classes each semester. It's a cohort model. It's lockstep. And again, the classes are 30 students or less. We have 2 cohorts in the fall, and we have a brand new cohort that just started this spring. We have a total of 103 students in our executive program and 212 currently in our traditional program. Our executive program requires at least 3 years of professional experience, managerial, healthcare, professional experience. Our MHA program is more for those who are new to the field, who might just be coming straight from their undergraduate, who are changing professions and don't have that background. It does require an internship, whereas our executive doesn't, because we are dealing with professionals that are already working in the environment in which they're most likely going to stay. Next slide. As I mentioned before, we're part of the Department of Health Management and Informatics, and also included in that department are our 2 healthcare informatics programs, the bachelor's and the master's, as well as a track in our PhD track in the public affairs program. We have 33 faculty, 4 program assistants, 5 staff, 2 internship coordinators, usually on average about 15 adjuncts, and then several GTAs and RAs. The pictures that are shown on this slide are our new campus that we're moving to this summer in downtown Orlando. So again, more major changes for us, but we're happy to be part of that new community. Of those 33 faculty, we have 6 faculty that regularly teach, full-time faculty that regularly teach in the executive program, though I mention all this large number of faculty because most of our faculty teach across many of the different programs. We also have right now about 3 adjuncts in the community. These are former CEOs or current CEOs of our large hospital systems that teach regularly for us. Next slide. This is a brief program overview of the classes that we offer. I won't go into detail, but I just wanted to share with you that these are the 10 core classes, as well as a capstone that's required for our students as well. One of the differences between this and our traditional program is that many of our courses, like healthcare organizational behavior and human resource management, would be 2 classes in our traditional program. Same with quality and risk. Those are 2 classes in our traditional program. We've combined them into a 4-credit hour class because these are things that many of our students already have experience in, and we can take them to a next level instead of just introducing new concepts to them. Next slide. We use an HLA modified competency model with the 5 domains that are listed on this slide. From those 5 domains, there are 20 competencies that have been developed, and we assess the competencies at the individual course and program level. Our traditional and our executive program, as I keep mentioning and I keep wanting to restate, those are 2 tracks within one program. We share the same mission, we share the same vision, we share the same goals. We have a very broad mission that encompasses both sets of students. We share the same competency model. Though with our executive program, we're expecting them to be competent and seeking the next level at many of these competencies, compared with our traditional where they'll be beginning in the competencies. Next slide. Our traditional program was first accredited in 2004, and our last site visit was fall 2013. We have our next site visit fall 2020, so coming up pretty soon. And our executive program was accredited as a tract of our existing MHA in fall 2015. When we have our first site visit fall 20, or our next site visit fall 2020, it will be the first boots on the ground type of site visit for our executive program. We have pursued CAHME accreditation because we recognize the value of being an accredited program. We think that this ensures the highest quality educational standards for our students, and it's something that our students and our stakeholders have come to expect, and we want to make sure that we fulfill that. Next slide. We recognize the many, many benefits of CAHME, as well as our key stakeholders. They see the CAHME accreditation seal, and that helps to ensure with them that we are complying with industry-wide competencies as we deliver high-quality education. It also provides our students with an ability to compete for nationally competitive administrative fellowships. And our strong competency-based standards we've developed help ensure that our students are getting the most relevant content necessary to be competent, high-quality healthcare administrators. And I have to tell you, it's one thing, I'll be blunt here, to ask your faculty to measure these competencies, to do the many reports, to have the meetings that we want to have, to become totally engaged with our students. When you don't have CAHME behind you, it's a totally different experience when you have CAHME and CAHME accreditation. And they know that these are things that are important. So it really helps getting our faculty on board, and it helps attract a higher level student than I think programs that aren't CAHME accredited will get. The challenges, if you can even call them that, and these are similar to what Annie has already stated, it is time consuming, but that time that you're putting in is what helps get you to be that high quality program that you're seeking. Another thing that can be a challenge is any program changes that you want to make, you need to think keep those CAHME standards in mind. You can't just say, oh, let's take out these 3 classes and lower our credit hours, and we don't really need to cover that. They'll get it somewhere else. No, if it's something that you see in the CAHME standards as deemed important to our field, you need to keep it in. You also need to make sure you're providing enough of competency-based activities. So those are some of the challenges that we've seen. If we had the choice to pursue or not pursue maintaining our accreditation, we would most definitely continue our CAHME accreditation because it's allowed our students to compete for those nationally competitive administrative fellowships with great success here. It also is, again, like I said, that testament to our commitment of delivering high quality education and making sure that our students are achieving those competencies that both CAHME and we have set forth. Some advice that I'd give to programs that are thinking about pursuing accreditation. It's the next slide. It's time consuming, as we mentioned, but it's a worthwhile process. Having that seal of approval or seal, good housekeeping seal, the CAHME accreditation seal, it allows our stakeholders as well as our current prospective students to know they're getting that high quality competency-based education. Some of the challenges that we've additional challenges I forgot to mention before that we've encountered with particular criteria have to do with tracking our alumni, and this is something you may all experience. Our alumni tracking is done through a central office at UCF. We cannot get them to work with us. So when we want to reach out and contact our alumni, we experience many challenges with that. We're hoping that we can better this relationship as we move downtown and hopefully have new players come to the table to work with. We also have had challenges in the past in trying to figure out how to measure all these competencies at all the different levels and getting everyone on board with that. And our solution to that was to have one of our IT and also internship coordinator faculty develop an in-house dashboard. So we're really excited to roll that out soon and share that with you all as well. The last slide. How was the experience working with CAHME? It's been positive, it's been collegial, it's informative. The platform that you use for the self-study and all the reporting, it's an online platform that's fabulous to work with. I've had the privilege, like I said, of working with it from every angle, from a reviewer and site visit team member to a program director who's inputting the information. So it's very, very user-friendly. And does it add value? Yes, I've mentioned this several times. It's a value-added process. The peer review that you get, the feedback, the input that you get from your CAHME peers and from the CAHME office, it's invaluable. Also, our students, faculty, community partners, and other stakeholders, they recognize and value CAHME accreditation. So I look forward to any questions you might have and how I can help you further.
Thank you so much, Dawn. And sorry for the feedback.
Hello?
I can hear you.
Steve, I think, yeah, we're ready for you, Steve.
Okay, thank you. So I'm delighted to be here this afternoon. My name is Steve Sadlowski. I'm the MHA Program Director at the University of Scranton. Next slide, please. So I've been with the University of Scranton for about 8.5 years, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about our programs, primarily around the graduate programs, but I'll address some of the undergraduate Bachelor in Science degree as well. The degrees that we offer here at the University of Scranton is one degreed program for Master of Health Administration with 2 tracks, one being a strict residential track, the second being an executive track, which is fully online with some synchronous components, which I'll discuss. We also have a Bachelor of Science in Health Administration. The MHA program is accredited with CAHME. Both tracks are accredited with CAHME. Our next site visit is coming up in spring of 2020, similar to the University of Central Florida. This will be the first time that our executive track, boots on the ground, will have a fellow in to review that as well. Our undergraduate health administration program is AUPHA certified. In fact, this upcoming June, we're currently under review, and we'll meet with the entities this upcoming June in New Orleans. The number of credits in our program, our MHA residential program, is 44 credit hours of coursework, and then an additional 8 credits, which gets us to 52 credits with a 1,000-hour, 6-month residency. From start of the program, this is more of a cohort model, is 2 years and 3 months. The MHA online program, identical programs with the exception of a 3-year requirement of management professional experience, which requires an affidavit that we still require residency, but it's an internship, so it's only 150 hours. So that total course curriculum is similar to the residential program in that it's 44 credit hours. The difference is there's only a requirement for a 3-credit internship, given the executive experience on the front end. The Bachelor of Science degree is 120-hour credits. It takes 4 years. I do want to say we do have an accelerated program where in our senior year for undergraduate health administration students, if they meet a threshold in our criteria, which is a little bit higher in terms of GPA and other requirements, they can take 12 credits of graduate work in their senior year and relieve 1 year of fall spring academic time. The target audience for our programs are primarily full-time students. The University of Scranton graduate programs are defined as 6 credits or more in a given semester. So how much of the accredited degree programs and certified degree programs are online? The MHA residential, there is no online component to that curriculum. The MHA online requires a 3-credit field internship experience. The remainder of the courses are fully online. The BS residential program is fully residential based. However, the university proper policy is we do allow a few select courses over the intersession period, which is the month of January, and in the summer for those undergraduate students to take some undergraduate online courses. As far as the synchronous versus synchronous activity, the MHA residential program is fully synchronous as mentioned. As you are aware, the CAHME criteria has changed in terms of the 120 synchronous activities requirement. However, our faculty and our stakeholders have decided to maintain that synchronous activity, and we've embedded that into our curriculum. Currently, I'm working with some colleagues on some research to determine, and hopefully we'll be presenting out in June, presenting out in Denver at the Online Learning Consortium as to what areas of synchronous activity are most valuable as far as the domains and competencies, and there's some preliminary results on that. The BS residential program, as mentioned, is all synchronous. I mentioned the internship experience with the residential program, 1,000 hours. The online internship is 150 hours, and similar to the BS in health administration, 150 hours. Next slide, please. So our faculty committed to our accredited programs, we have 11 full-time faculty. That ranges from assistant professors up to full professors. We also have a complement of faculty specialists, which are not rank and tenure positions, but help support the programs. On average, depending on the demand and subject matter area that we need to fulfill, we maintain roughly about 8 to 10 adjunct faculty in our programs. We have about 1.5 direct support staff to our certified and accredited programs, along with 5 graduate teaching assistants. Based on input from our stakeholders, and we adopted our competency model back in May of 2011. It's a modified version of the Healthcare Leadership Alliance model. That is a direct derivative of our mission and input from our stakeholders. We're currently at 27. Our last revision, we've modified our model slightly over time based on input, but we're at 27 competencies based on the HLA model. As far as our online program, we're currently tracking competency attainment in 2 ways. One is manually, where we actually work with students in certain courses, specific courses on the self-assessment, pre, mid, and post, where we track them in course shells and print out those documents. We also record manually preceptor assessment of the same competencies during internship and field work. Additionally, we've recently, this past fall, employed a technology assessment platform where we can try to move from more the manual tracking to the assessment platform. Next slide, please. So we've been accredited since 1997. As mentioned, our next site visit is spring of 2020. We've decided, and this predates my time, but this goes back to even AUPHA and then eventually into CAHME. The commitment really here is around academic excellence and commitment to student learning outcomes and competency. And so that's the prime reason is around student-centered learning, why we pursued CAHME accreditation. Some key lessons from my experience and our faculty's experience is to really become engaged with CAHME. Several of our faculty have served on various councils, served as fellows, did site visits, and volunteered in various ways. And so I'd highly encourage that. And this is not a promotion for the CAHME boot camps, but I would strongly encourage faculty, not just program leadership, but faculty within those degreed programs to attend CAHME boot camps so they can get a clear understanding of the expectation and the demands. I recently had a faculty member with me at a boot camp, and he said, and he came back, he says, I'm going to put every email into the student file. And I said, well, we don't need to go to that degree, but begin to recognize the importance in the process that one goes through to attain CAHME accreditation. The second piece here is the systematic monitoring of program outcomes, A, and B, student learning outcomes, which are two separate areas that we really need to focus on. So we have those program level outcomes that we look at, but then the competencies on top of that, and to embed in that whole process that systematic monitoring and evaluation. The third area here, and I can tell you AUPHA nor ACHE and CAHME have asked me to say this, but I strongly encourage faculty in the degreed, certified, and accredited programs to attend the AUPHA annual meeting, ACHE Congress, and other professional meetings. Why? This is a chance to talk with your peers. This is a chance where you really get to share best practices around accreditation, around teaching, around assessment, monitoring assessment. And for me, speaking personally, is the time where I get to intimately talk about what's going on with our program and areas for improvement. You get that through the AUPHA forums and other venues, but being on site is extremely critical. Next slide, please. So the value of accreditation. So 3 top strengths, advantages of accreditation. Student recruitment for sure. I can tell you as part of our admission criteria, we interview every student that comes in. I can tell you that students come to us knowing that we're CAHME accredited. And when during the interview, especially with very strong students that are looking at several universities, my immediate introductory response to them in the interview is, whether you choose the University of Scranton or not, make sure you choose a CAHME accredited program. And I know, and I can tell you students are looking for that. 2 is student success, both academically and professionally, that there's standards being held by our accrediting group, no different than other accrediting groups, that we must maintain to ensure that students are getting the return on their investment, that the dollars that they're spending for their degree is preparing them for a successful career in healthcare. The third is accountability. I think with accreditation, you can't sit back and say, all right, we've got our accreditation, and it's really an ongoing process, and to maintain those standards and continuous quality improvement, the CAHME criteria really supports the accountability among faculty and staff. As mentioned by my peers, my colleagues, some time commitment. There are efforts that need to be put in by faculty, staff, administration, and other stakeholders in terms of achieving accreditation. Well worth it for sure. The second area is faculty buy-in and training. I mentioned the CAHME boot camps, but on top of that, to have periodic meetings with your faculty to update, whether it be at faculty meetings or separate meetings, as to where the standards are at with CAHME, some of the changes and modifications that have occurred, and what we need to do as a program. And then just educating and communicating the importance of CAHME and why we need to move forward, not just with CAHME, but with AUPHA certification for our undergraduate programs. And then the third area is it requires resources from administration. We've been blessed per se that I've advocated and our faculty's advocated for resources to send our student teams to case competitions, to send students to present research, to get faculty lines. So while it requires resources from administration, which could be a disadvantage, you can also use that to advocate for resources for our students, faculty, and staff. Next slide, please. So if I had the choice, if our faculty had the choice, for sure, we would maintain it. And the reason is, A, academic excellence, commitment to academic standards of excellence, and primarily commitment to our students to ensure that we're doing the best we can and continue to improve our services to our students, both academically and programmatically. Some advice for individuals and programs looking to pursue accreditation: proper planning. To move forward and begin putting reports together, whether it be through candidacy or other actions, before you move forward, really sit down and have a comprehensive map and plan over a 5 to 10 year plan of how you're going to move through candidacy and accreditation. That becomes extremely important. 2, input from stakeholders. That includes your professional advisory council, your employers, your alumni, your students, your administration, faculty. It really helps craft and refine your mission and your purpose, and then everything filters and falls from there. The third is a systematic process in place from a programmatic standpoint and also from a student learning outcome standpoint on continuous quality improvement, and then to track and monitor those outcomes and get feedback from assessment information, from exit surveys, alumni surveys, and identify areas for improvement and make modifications programmatically and curriculum-wise. And then the final thing, and it's extremely important, and I know across the country, not just health administration programs, but programs in general, especially if they're early programs or relatively new programs, is getting an active alumni is extremely critical for a variety of reasons, from mentorship programs to alumni networking events, to finding placements for residency and internship, etc. So that becomes extremely critical. Next slide, please. The overall experience with CAHME, and both of my peers today mentioned this, and I just attended the boot camp and ACHE, and time again doing site visits as a fellow. This is a very collegial process. It's peer reviewed, and the teams that come in to audit programs and validate information that's submitted are really there to help you. And I can tell you that CAHME is committed to ensuring that the student comes first. And that's why we have so many volunteers with the organization, and why I continue to volunteer. It's a very collegial. In terms of the accreditation process, yes, this does, in terms of our stakeholders, employers are requiring this. Many of the slots that our students are being placed in finding employment, they're looking for a CAHME accredited degree. Students are asking for a CAHME accredited degree. And it also provides a professional identity for the faculty. When we say we're CAHME accredited, we immediately relate, we share information. I can't tell you the number of times where my colleagues or I have reached out to each other to ask questions, or have you been faced with a certain scenario and what have you done? So that professional identity, no different than ACHE for the professionals, I think CAHME for academics, that professional identity along with AUPHA in peer consultation. Next slide, please. So I'm going to turn it back over to Carla at this point.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Steve. And I know Eric's been tracking the questions coming in. So Eric, do you want to take it over and present some of these questions to our panelists?
Absolutely. Can you hear me, Carla?
I can. It takes a minute
Yes.
for me to unmute.
So
Yeah.
yes, you can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, all right. I got booted out of the webinar a few moments ago, so I had to come back in. All right, so we have several questions from the panel, and I'm going to start at the back of the very top and work my way back down. So one of the questions is, how many classes do online programs typically have in a semester, and are the 120 synchronous hours spread out across all courses?
This is Steve. I could speak to that if you'd like.
Absolutely.
So I mentioned that we've maintained the 120-hour requirement. CAHME does no longer require that to maintain accreditation or to seek accreditation. What we've done as a faculty is we've mapped out, and 120 hours aren't. We didn't simply divide the 120 hours and spread it over the curriculum. We've assigned synchronous activities of those 120 hours to specific domains that we felt would be most valuable in terms of student learning. We've embedded that 120 because it's been a requirement. Based on some research that's coming out, we may modify that 120 because it's not a requirement anymore. But some of the preliminary findings that my colleague and I have been that are coming up is that it's been supporting. It supports student ability to network. It establishes a sense of community in an online environment, and we're finding that synchronous activities are primarily falling in more of the affective competencies in the domains around professionalism, communication, and then some of the quantitative analysis. We're not finding anything on bodies of knowledge. And so that's what we're finding, those kind of higher level taxonomy. So that speaks to the 120. Does that address the question in terms of how we've?
I think so, Steve. For the other question, what's the norm for each of the programs in terms of how many hours or courses does a student normally take within a given term or semester?
So at the University of Scranton, and I'm not sure at Seton Hall or UCF, but at the University of Scranton, our online courses run in 8-week sessions, and 95% of our students take one course per 8 weeks. So in a typical fall A and a fall B, where there's 2 8-week terms, you would have students taking 6 credits per term. So each session 8 weeks, one course, but 2 sessions in a term, so it would be 6 credits. Some students double up, where 5%, which is rare, where if they feel they can manage 2 courses in an 8-week term, they will do that. But again, that's a small minority.
Okay, thank you. Dawn or Annie, would you like to share for your program?
Sure. This is sure. This is. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Annie.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. We're very similar in that we also offer a 7-week, 1-week off format for our online cohorts. However, we do have, we're hybrid in the sense that we still have the 3 required residencies on campus, where our students now will be coming for 3 days. We used to have them come for 5, but now they're coming for 3 days. And we actually complete a 1-credit course that are based on professionalism and leadership skills when we actually have them in those synchronous sessions face to face. We've augmented that because we truly believe that those opportunities where students are face to face, not only with faculty, but with each other, are so beneficial in how they build their networking skills and community development skills. But we also require within every one of our courses, except for those 3 that occur during the residencies, that each instructor has 2 synchronous webinar type sessions, and they vary among the different courses what's actually covered, but students know in the syllabi exactly what 2 weeks they need to attend, that there will be the synchronous session, and how to work it out. So I think that's my answer to that particular question.
Okay, and at UCF, we're different from your 2 programs because we have 16-week semesters in fall and spring and a 12-week semester in the summer. During each of those semesters, our students take 2 classes. Those are 4 credit hour classes, so they're taking 8 credit hours per semester. And it is lockstep, and all of our students go through that same format.
All right, thank you, Dawn. All right, so the next question, let's scroll down here and find the next one. For programs that have 2 tracks of the same program, so the question is, I'm going to make sure I repeat this correctly. What determines whether there are 2 tracks of the same program or 2 completely separate accreditations? And so I guess the short answer for the accreditation piece would be, obviously AUPHA certification would be for the undergrad programs and CAHME for the graduate programs. But for your programs, as far as is there anything beyond the executive factor that's been noted in the webinar that would distinguish the tracks from being different?
I could begin with that. This is Steve. So the criteria are pretty clear in terms of the expectations from CAHME, and to determine if I'm understanding the difference between having one program with 2 tracks or 2 separate programs, you need to ensure that the mission for each programs are similar. The competency model is similar. The core faculty are similar. In other words, that the outcome of the programs, the tracks, are similar in terms of the competency attainment. There may be different leveling per se. The mode of delivery in terms of the teaching methods and the andragogy are different for sure, because you're in an online environment. But we're getting at the end with different means in the various tracks. What I've seen some question around is, should there be 2 separate accreditations? I would say that occurs when the target audience and mission are completely different, where if we're targeting early careerists versus senior level, that the competency model is different, that there's substantial variation in terms of what's being produced, in terms of student product at the end of the curriculum, would really determine whether it's 2 tracks or 2 separate programs.
Okay.
John, maybe you can develop that a little.
I think what you stated is exactly correct. Our 2 programs, I keep mentioning, they're tracks within one Health Services Administration Master's program, because we share the same mission, vision, values, goals, faculty, competencies, though they're being measured. We're looking for more, I'm struggling with the word, to have met the competency at a higher level with our executive students, as opposed to introductory material with our traditional students. But again, we're striving for that same output. We've got the same basic structure. To have 2 different self-studies and 2 different site visits would be repetitive. We share that same faculty, the same staff, the same pretty much everything. The courses are structured a little differently in the way they're packaged, but it's the same content and the same competencies that we're looking at as an end result from our students.
All right. So the next question is specifically for Dawn with UCF. And the question relates to your alumni. So the question is, bear with me for just a moment here. I think it's scrolling. All right. So have you tried to connect with the alumni through social media?
We actually use a forum.
I've got, I'm going to have my partner in crime here speak to that, because this is an area that she works with. Hannah Wins with me.
Yes. Hi. So what we currently do, it's not really social media per se, but we do leverage the technology that we currently have on campus, which is our web course. And what we've done is we built a forum right into the web course platform, and all of our alumni are added when they first start the program as current students. And from there, we engage with our students, and then whenever they get ready to graduate, we change their status to alumni, but they still have the same capabilities to engage with us as faculty and staff, as well as current students. And it's just a whole community where current students and alumni kind of collaborate, as well as get any additional information that is happening within our campus or within the general community that applies to them. As far as social media, we do have LinkedIn that we do engage our alumni and encourage them to join and post and share updates. But really what we've seen that has been very powerful that works for us is kind of starting them as current students on this one platform, and then just allowing them to stay on as alumni, because they're very familiar with the platform already. So the engagement piece picks up a lot more than what we've seen on our LinkedIn page.
All right, thank you. All right. So the next question, again, could be broadly answered by any member of the panel. The question is, could the presenters talk more about specifically maybe the platform that they use to conduct assessment tracking? Specifically, the person noted that Steve had mentioned they or will start specifically soon using a platform. So for the platforms that may be used right now by the programs, are those assessment platforms, do they also integrate with the learning management system?
Okay, so I could speak to that. So really quick, the manual. We have manual assessment, self-assessment at the start of the program, midpoint, and then after their field-based learning. Their preceptors also assess them, field-based learning, and faculty throughout. And so that's manually done. What we were able to get from our faculty, and I don't know the brand name of the software, the platform, was this resources for university-wide that started this past fall. What it allowed us to do is load our 27 competencies in each of the domains and allow students to self-assess against those competencies, faculty to go in, as well as our preceptors against those competencies. It currently is not tied to the learning management system. We have two learning management systems, one Desire to Learn and two is Engage, and they don't feed or talk to the platform. What we've done is embedded links from the platform into those shells, where students then go in, click on the link in the shell, and then it ties back to that platform. But at this point, we're not able to download any kind of comprehensive reports from that. However, off the platform itself, I'm able to look at descriptive statistics aggregately from students around all the competencies, and then also drill down at the student level and when we're doing academic advising, etc., we can print off the platform those individual reports. So no, they're not tied, but there's a way of doing it where we've developed links that we can aggregate at the program level and then the student level.
All right, thank you, Steve. So I was just prompted by our timekeeper that we are approaching the end of our time. So what we'll do with the rest of the questions, we will take the rest of the questions that have been submitted over here, as well as the ones we've answered maybe here just in the past few moments, and we'll have the panel, I'll send those out to the panel, and then we will post those answers along with the webinar recording to the AUPHA Online Program Directors Forum for you to view at a later time. So I think Carla was going to spend a few seconds here at the very end to talk about the annual meeting really quickly, and then we can end the webinar for today and be respectful of everyone's time.
Great. Thank you so much, Eric, and a special thank you to all of the presenters. I greatly appreciate your openness and sharing about your programs and the benefits and challenges to the accreditation process. So just quickly, so all the forums are required to do sessions at the annual meeting. Eric and I have talked about running a lightning round presentation during our 60-minute session. I will send details out, and I hope that everyone who's participating today will consider being involved. I did talk to Jason, and it looks like the forum is scheduled to be Wednesday, which is June 12th at 4:30 p.m. So just watch your email and look for that opportunity to come. Again, I thank everyone. I thank Eric and Anthony at CAHME for hosting this meeting, all of our speakers, and my incoming chair, Eric. And I hope this was beneficial to all of you. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you very much.